Chapter 2784. After knowing the function of the ancient god's heart, Lu Ming's heart was burning. If his divine body continued to strengthen, would he become as strong as the ancient god in the future? Brat, I have another piece of good news for you. Just now, I was constantly absorbing energy. There's still a lot of energy left in my body. Once I've refined it, I'll transfer it to you. Your cultivation will increase by another level. The quantifying formula said. Really? Lu Ming was about to laugh out loud. This time, although the process was very dangerous, the harvest was also very shocking. His cultivation had increased to the second level of true God realm, and he had condensed the ancient god's heart. His divine body was also several times stronger than before. With the current strength of his divine body, it was enough for him to cultivate the battle formula to increase his combat strength by 4 times. What a great reward! After calming himself down, Lu Ming looked around and finally fixed his gaze on the Great Elder. At this moment, the Great Elder was staring at Lu Ming with hatred. You don't have to look at me like that. Speaking of which, I have to thank you. If you didn't want to send me into the array, I wouldn't have been able to condense the ancient god's heart. Lu Ming smiled faintly. The Great Elder was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. Previously, Gu Xiong wanted to kill Lu Ming. He was the one who wanted to send Lu Ming into the array. He didn't expect that he would help Lu Ming and ruin their plan. Gu Xiong almost died from anger. He regretted not killing Lu Ming. If he had killed Lu Ming, it would have been great. He would have been the one to condense the ancient god's heart. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. It was too late to regret now. Rumble. At this moment, there was a sudden change. The place where the 8 valleys converged, along with the 8 valleys, suddenly trembled violently, and the earth shook violently. The ancient god flowers that covered the mountains had already withered. At this moment, the ancient god flowers turned into ashes and dissipated. However, the ground emitted a dazzling light. What's going on? What's going on? Many of the descendants of the ancient gods began to shout. Even Gu Xiong, Gu Bo, and the others were at a loss, not knowing what was going on. The trembling of the ground grew stronger, and the glow on the ground grew brighter. In fact, an incomparably terrifying aura burst out. It was filled with an ancient and majestic aura. The crowd felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on them. Some of them even felt like vomiting blood. Retreat. Gu Bo roared and ordered the descendants of the ancient gods to retreat. Only after retreating far away did the pressure lessen. Senior Gu Bo, what's going on? Lu Ming stood beside Gu Bo and asked curiously. I don't know. The 8 Valleys Convergence Ground is a sacred place for the descendants of the ancient gods. Throughout history, they have always offered sacrifices to their ancestors here. However, this has never happened before. Gu Bo frowned. He had lived for a long time, but this was the first time he had encountered such a situation. Boom, boom. The 8 Valleys Convergence Ground shook more and more violently. In the end, a huge beam of light shot up to the sky. Originally, there was a mysterious formation around the ancient gods mountain that shrouded it. This was also the reason why the ancient gods mountain could not be found by outsiders. However, at this moment, the beam of light shot up to the sky and broke the formation that shrouded the ancient gods mountain. Once the formation was broken, the ancient gods mountain was exposed. As for the light barrier, it shot straight into outer space. The beam of light was too bright. Even those standing on another planet outside the ancient god planet could see the beam of light, let alone the ancient god planet itself. At least half of the people on the ancient god planet saw the beam of light. Countless people looked in its direction. What is that? What a terrifying movement. Could it be that a peerless treasure has appeared? Let's go and have a look. In a flash, many people rushed towards the direction of the ancient gods mountain. At this moment, Lu Ming and the others were dumbfounded. This was because at the Light Valley Convergence Ground, a huge door slowly appeared. It was a huge bronze door that was tens of thousands of feet tall. It stood between heaven and earth, and there were ancient deities carved on it. Could this be the legendary ancient god door? Gu Bo seemed to have thought of something and roared in shock. His old body was trembling with excitement. Ancient God Door. It must be the ancient God Door. According to the legends, it is the ancient God Door that leads to the ancient God world. I didn't expect the ancient God Door to be hidden in the Eight Valleys Convergence ground. Gu Shang and Gu Ling also shouted in excitement. Their eyes shone with a burning light. There was an ancient legend among the descendants of the ancient gods. According to the legend, the ancient God Door led to the ancient God world. If one had the chance to enter the ancient God world, he would have the chance to become an ancient god and be invincible. How could they not be moved? The ancient God Door that leads to the ancient God world? Lu Ming was shocked when he heard it. When the ancient God Door appeared, it stood between heaven and earth, emitting a dazzling light. The ancient God Door was made up of two bronze doors that were tightly shut. However, as time passed, the light on the ancient God Door dimmed. In the end, the light disappeared, leaving only the bronze doors standing between heaven and earth. That vast oppressive aura also disappeared. Let's go and take a look. Gu Bo, Gu Shang, Gu Ling, and the others could not stay calm. They rushed towards the ancient God Door. The other descendants of the ancient gods followed closely behind, leaving only a few people to guard the first elder and the others. Crack, crack. At this moment, Qiu, who had been in the form of a bracelet on Lu Ming's wrist, turned into a round ball and floated in the air. A pair of eyes appeared on its eyeballs, staring at the ancient God Door. Its big mouth opened and closed in excitement. Little guy, what are you trying to do? Lu Ming was curious. Crack, crack. Qiu's big mouth opened and closed continuously. Its eyes were filled with greed as it stared at the ancient God Door. You can't be thinking of eating that bronze door, right? Lu Ming speechlessly asked. He hadn't expected Qiu to repeatedly nod. Lu Ming's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Little guy, don't act rashly. Lu Ming softly warned as he flew towards the ancient God Door with Qiu. Gu Bo and the others had already landed below the ancient God Door. The ancient God Door was too big. It was tens of thousands of meters tall and several thousand meters wide. When they stood below it, they were as small as ants. Gu Bo and the others tried to push the ancient God Door, wanting to open it. However, it was like an ant trying to shake a tree. The ancient God Door didn't budge. In the end, almost all the descendants of the ancient gods joined hands to push the ancient God Door, but the result didn't change at all. Lu Ming also joined in, but it was also useless. Little guy, don't waste your time. This door is incomparably ancient and heavy. Moreover, there's a grand formation inscribed on it. You won't be able to open it, said Guillemot. Chapter 2785. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and shook his head. He retreated a distance and did not continue to attack. Qiu tried to rush out several times, but was stopped by Lu Ming. After all, there were so many descendants of the ancient gods present, and he was afraid that Qiu would cause a ruckus. Gu Bo and the rest tried all kinds of methods, but to no avail. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, there were rays of light flying over from afar. It was as though there was a meteor shower in the sky. It was a spectacular sight. The rest of the people on the ancient god planet had finally arrived. Is this the ancient gods mountain? Didn't our territorial master go to look for the ancient gods mountain? Why did the ancient gods mountain appear on its own? What a big door. What's that? Let's go and take a look. One by one, they flew towards the ancient gods mountain and the bronze door. Get lost. Gu Bo shouted angrily. The aura of the heavenly god realm spread out and shocked these people, and they retreated. The ancient god planet was occupied by the territorial masters. The highest cultivation level of the territorial masters was peak true god, and most of them had fallen in the ancient gods mountain. Among these people, the highest cultivation level was not higher than rank 6 true god. Under the pressure of Gu Bo's aura, they naturally did not dare to act rashly. However, as time passed, more and more people came. The sky was densely packed, and the number was immeasurable. Gu Bo sighed. With so many people, even if his cultivation level was high, he could not suppress them. Moreover, the news would spread quickly. When the major forces of the Qin star field arrived, they would be even more powerless. In fact, the news had already spread. On the ancient god planet, there were not only natives but also disciples from the Qin 13 sects like Lu Ming who had come to the ancient god planet to gain experience. They had already spread the news of the changes in the ancient god planet and the bronze door. Elder, what should we do now? Someone asked Gubo and the rest. Now that the ancient god's mountain had been completely occupied by others, there were people everywhere and they could no longer suppress the situation. Let's leave this place and find another place to stay. This place is no longer suitable for living. Gubo sighed helplessly. The other ancient god descendants were also helpless. However, they knew that this place wasn't suitable for living. When the powerful forces of the Qin star field arrived, they wouldn't be able to protect the ancient god's mountain. If they weren't careful, they might even be exterminated. Let's go, little friend Lu Ming. We're leaving. Take care of yourself. Gu Bo cupped his fists towards Lu Ming. Take care. Lu Ming nodded. Lu Ming, let's meet again if we have the chance. Gu Xing also came over to say goodbye. Although Lu Ming had brought Gu Xiong to the brink of death, Gu Xing didn't blame Lu Ming. She knew that Gu Xiong had only himself to blame for all of this. Not to mention, Lu Ming had saved most of the ancient god's descendants. Take care. We'll meet again if there's a chance. Lu Ming smiled faintly. After that, the descendants of the ancient gods all left and disappeared into the horizon. As soon as the ancient god descendants left, the crowd immediately flew towards the ancient god gate, wanting to open it. Of course, the ancient god gate wasn't something that could be opened with a large number of people. The crowd couldn't open it even after expending a tremendous amount of effort. At this time, Lu Ming also quietly approached the ancient god gate. Little guy, do whatever you want, but be careful. Lu Ming warned Qiuqiu. Crack. Qiuqiu darted out, opened its mouth wide, and actually bit down on the bronze door. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he watched nervously. Creak, creak. Qiuqiu fiercely bit on the bronze gate, letting out an ear-piercing sound. Boom. The gate shuddered violently as a terrifying aura burst out from it. Ah, what's going on? Nestle. Many people were directly sent flying by this pressure. Not good. Lu Ming's expression also changed. Qiuqiu bit down even harder, biting with all its might. Its sharp teeth actually managed to bite into the bronze door. Creak. At this time, strands of lightning spread out from the bronze gate, emitting a terrifying energy fluctuation. Not good, Qiuqiu. Quickly retreat. Lu Ming hurriedly shouted, because those strands of lightning were spreading towards Qiuqiu. Crack. Qiuqiu exerted all its strength and bit off a small piece of bronze. It then frantically retreated, but it was already too late. A strand of lightning struck Qiuqiu's body, and Qiuqiu was directly sent flying. Qiuqiu. Lu Ming was greatly alarmed and chased in the direction that Qiuqiu was sent flying. He saw Qiuqiu heavily smashing into the ground and no longer moving. Lu Ming's heart was beating wildly, and he hurriedly ran over, only to find that Qiuqiu's body was completely black, as if it had been burnt. Lu Ming's heart sank. But in the next moment, Qiuqiu's round body rolled twice, and that big mouth appeared again and crunched a few times. This guy was fine. Lu Ming was relieved. This guy, you're willing to throw away your life for food. Lu Ming picked up Qiuqiu and scolded with a smile. Qiuqiu turned into a bracelet and wrapped itself around Lu Ming's wrist. Its aura was very weak, and Qiuqiu had indeed been heavily injured after being struck by the bronze gate's lightning. Let's leave first. Lu Ming thought to himself, because there were already quite a few people looking at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's figure flickered, and he left the ancient god's mountain, arriving at a large mountain more than 100,000 miles away to observe the changes in the ancient god's mountain. More and more people gathered around the ancient god's mountain. A few days later, a big shot indeed arrived. The Qin Heavenly 13 sects was the closest sect, and a terrifying figure had arrived. This person was shrouded in divine light and emitted an incomparably terrifying pressure. Everyone was suppressed by this pressure, and they all frantically retreated, leaving the bronze gate. That figure stood alone in front of the bronze gate. Boom! that figure suddenly made his move. A terrifying divine light blasted towards the bronze gate, wanting to blast it open. Boom! Above the bronze gate, there was a violent explosion, but after the explosion, the bronze gate still didn't budge. "Open for me!" That figure shouted loudly. His aura was like a rainbow, and his divine power burned like flames. An even more terrifying aura erupted. Many people's bodies shook, and they vomited blood. They were almost crushed to death. Retreat! Retreat! Quickly retreat! Countless people frantically retreated, terrified. What a terrifying aura! Even though he was more than 100,000 miles away, Lu Ming could feel an incomparably terrifying pressure pressing down on him. He could only retreat 100,000 miles before he felt better. "Kid, that's a divine king," Guo said indifferently. "It's really a divine king." Lu Ming sucked in a breath of cold air. This was the first time he had seen a divine king make a move. The power was truly earth-shattering, and it was incomparably terrifying. If a heavenly god was an expert of the Qin heavenly starfield, then a divine king was definitely an overlord of the Qin heavenly starfield. Chapter 2786. A god king was much stronger than a heavenly god. When a god king raged, a planet would explode. Legend had it that a battle between multiple god kings could even destroy a massive planet with life. One could imagine how terrifying a god king was. Countless people stood in the distant void, watching the ancient god mountain from afar. Boom! That divine king attacked again, bombarding the bronze gate. Rumble! The bronze gate emitted a dazzling light, blocking the god king's attack. However, it also caused a terrifying tremor. Lu Ming and the others stood in the void, watching the ground of the ancient god planet tremble. Cracks even appeared on the ground, spreading into the distance. Countless people were shocked by the power of the god king. They instinctively retreated a distance, watching from afar. Boom! Boom! That god king kept retreating, but it was useless. He couldn't open the bronze gate. The bronze gate even emitted bolts of lightning that were as thick as mountains. They struck the god king, forcing him to retreat. What terrifying power! Seeing the power of the lightning, Lu Ming felt a lingering fear. The lightning that attacked Qiuqiu before didn't even have 1/10,000th of this power. Otherwise, no matter how strong Qiuqiu's vitality was, it would only end up turning into ashes. "It seems like you can't do it alone." A voice came from the distant starry sky. When this voice first sounded, it was still in the starry sky outside the atmosphere of the ancient god planet. However, when the voice faded, a figure appeared near that god king. The aura that this figure emitted was also terrifying. Without a doubt, this was also a god king expert. "You might not be able to open it," the god king snorted. "You'll know if you try." The god king behind him said coldly and also attacked the ancient god gate. Terrifying tremors erupted, but the result was the same as before. The god kings behind him couldn't open the ancient god gate. As time passed, more and more experts descended upon this place. The important figures of the Qin heavenly 13 sects arrived one after another. Even god kings kept arriving. Later on, the important figures of the three overlords and the Kongxian school sects all sent god kings. Later on, even the Ice Soul race and the Scarlet Flame race sent important figures. Clearly, the appearance of the ancient god sect had completely alarmed the Qin Tian starfield. However, even with so many forces and so many experts, after many attempts, they still could not break open the door of the ancient god and enter the world behind it. "There's a grand formation here. Only experts proficient in grand formations can open it." A god king spoke. Soon after, the news spread, and the experts from the Qin Tian starfield who were proficient in formations also rushed over. This formation is very complicated. It will take at least several decades to over 100 years to break it open. Finally, a formation master came to a conclusion. It still needs so many years. It seems that it will be impossible to open the bronze gate in a short period of time. I thought there would be a good show to watch. Let's come again in the future. Many people shook their heads and left the ancient god planet. It's time for me to leave. This trip can be considered a complete success. Lu Ming pondered for a while. Then, he left the ancient god planet and headed for the Kongxian school. After a long journey, Lu Ming returned to the Kongxian school. By now, the news of the ancient god planet had spread throughout the Qintian starfield. Many people in the Kongxian school were discussing this matter. However, as time passed, the doors still did not open, and the popularity slowly died down. In the Kongxian school, the discussion was more about the inter-sect grand competition. There were many outer and inner disciples in the Kongxian school. Therefore, the inter-sect grand competition would be held every once in a while. As long as one showed off their skills in the inter-sect grand competition, not only would they be famous, but they would also be rewarded handsomely. The inter-sect grand competition would be held in 3 years. Many people were already rubbing their palms together, eager to give it a try. However, Lu Ming was not interested in it at all. During this trip to the ancient god planet, a large group of territorial lords had died at his hands. Their storage rings had all fallen into Lu Ming's hands. Lu Ming had obtained a large number of treasures and divine gems. Therefore, Lu Ming did not care about the rewards of the inter-sect grand competition. If he had the time, he might as well cultivate. When he returned to his courtyard, he did not see Autumn Moon. Lu Ming guessed that Autumn Moon must be cultivating in the Divine Vein Tower or some other place. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the courtyard, quietly comprehending the battle character formula. Now that his divine body had improved by several times, the battle character formula could increase his combat strength by 4 times. He could already cultivate. As expected, once his divine body improved, his comprehension of the battle character formula came naturally. Not long after, Lu Ming successfully broke through the bottleneck and cultivated his combat strength by 4 times. Boom! Lu Ming's body emitted a strong battle intent. His body contained a terrifying amount of energy. 4 times combat strength. Lu Ming's eyes shone brightly. Right now, his cultivation base was at the peak of the 2nd level of the true god realm. If he could increase his combat strength by 4 times, he would definitely be able to defeat or even kill an opponent like Lezhong. Unfortunately, the chance of triggering 4 times combat strength is still not high. Lu Ming pondered. After his breakthrough, Lu Ming had researched it and found that the chance of triggering 4 times combat strength was only a few tens of percent. He would need to trigger it dozens of times before he could succeed. However, Lu Ming was filled with confidence. As his comprehension of the battle character formula deepened, the chance of triggering 4 times combat strength would naturally increase. It would be the same as 2 times or 3 times combat strength, reaching a 100% success rate. Someone's coming. Lu Ming ended his cultivation. Suddenly, his expression changed. He sensed that someone was flying toward his courtyard. Lu Ming opened the courtyard's door and walked out. He saw 5 figures flying over. Wu Zifeng, Yu Linglong. 2 of them were Wu Zifeng and Yu Linglong. As for Wu Zifeng and Yu Linglong, there were 3 other people that Lu Ming did not recognize. Among the 3, there was clearly a young woman leading them. This woman was extremely beautiful. She could be said to be devastatingly beautiful. This woman, Lu Ming's heart shook. This woman's appearance was somewhat similar to Yu Xian's. Behind the woman were 2 young men. They were like flower escorts, protecting the young woman. Lu Ming, you finally returned from outside. Yu Linglong smiled and asked, I just returned. Do you need something from me? Lu Ming smiled. My cousin is looking for you. So when we heard that you've returned, we came to find you. Yu Linglong smiled. Your cousin? Lu Ming looked at the young woman. Unfathomable. This was Lu Ming's first impression of this young woman. This young woman's cultivation was unfathomable. Lu Ming was completely unable to see through her. Come, let me introduce you. This is my expression, Ouyang Qingxiang. She is my aunt, Yu Xian's daughter. Yu Linglong said. She really is Yu Xian's daughter. Lu Ming's heart shook. When he saw Ouyang Qingxiang, Lu Ming felt that she was somewhat similar to Yu Xian. When Yu Linglong said that she was her cousin, Lu Ming had such a guess. Chapter 2787. Let me tell you something else. My cousin is the saintess of the Kongxian school. Yu Linglong smiled. Saintess. This time, Lu Ming was really surprised. The Kongxian school had a total of 5 saints and 2 saintesses, all of whom were qualified to compete for the position of the patriarch. Unexpectedly, Ouyang Qingxiang in front of him was one of the 2 saintesses. Saintess Ouyang, it's an honor to meet you. Lu Ming clasped his fist and greeted. I've also heard of your name, Lu Ming. You entered the Kongxian school as the first place in the Qin Tian 13 sex assessment. When you entered the Kongxian school, your cultivation was only at the demigod realm. However, in just a few decades, you stepped into the true god realm and became an inner disciple. This cultivation speed is really shocking. Ouyang Qingxiang smiled. I was just lucky, just lucky. Lu Ming said a few modest words and changed the topic. I wonder why Saintess Ouyang is looking for me? I won't beat around the bush. I'm here to invite you to join my faction. What do you think? Ouyang Qingxiang said. As expected, Lu Ming curled his lips slightly. Ouyang Qingxiang really came to invite him to join her faction. However, Saintess Ouyang Qingxiang came personally. Her sincerity was not bad. Unfortunately, Lu Ming did not plan to join any faction. He also did not want to listen to others' orders. Saintess Ouyang, I'm afraid I have to disappoint you. I don't plan to join any faction for the time being. Lu Ming said. Don't want to join? Lu Ming, you have to think about it carefully. Saintess Ouyang was slightly stunned. She obviously did not expect that Lu Ming would reject her personally. That's right. Lu Ming, you have to think about it carefully. My cousin is such a beauty and she's still single. Yu Linglong whispered as she winked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming speechlessly touched his nose and shook his head. Lu Ming appreciates Saintess Ouyang's good intentions, but Lu Ming really doesn't intend to join any faction. Brat, don't be ungrateful. The Holy Maiden has personally come to invite you. She has already given you a lot of face. Yet, you have repeatedly rejected her. You really don't know what you're talking about. That's right. Does this brat not know his situation? Both the Great Heaven faction and Floating Light faction want to kill you. Do you know that our Saintess is inviting you at the risk of falling out with the Great Heaven faction and Floating Light faction? Do you understand? The 2 youths behind Ouyang Qingxiang couldn't bear it any longer and loudly berated. Both of you, shut up. Ouyang Qingxiang scolded, making the 2 youths shut up obediently. Lu Ming, if you don't want to agree, I won't make things difficult for you. Goodbye. Ouyang Qingxiang cupped her fists and said, Wait. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly called out to Ouyang Qingxiang. Ouyang Qingxiang's eyes lit up, thinking that Lu Ming had changed his mind. Saintess Ouyang, although Lu Ming doesn't intend to join your faction, it's still possible if we work together. Lu Ming said. Work together? Ouyang Qingxiang was slightly stunned. That's right. Work together. Let's work together. Lu Ming nodded his head once again. Brat. The 2 youths behind Ouyang Qingxiang couldn't hold back anymore. One of them shouted, Brat, who do you think you are? You dare to say that you want to work together with the Saintess? Do you really think you're some big shot? That's right. Our Saintess controls a faction with countless experts and countless resources. Who do you think you are? What qualifications do you have to work together with our Saintess? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? Ridiculous. Simply ridiculous. The 2 youths looked at Lu Ming with disdain and contempt. You two, stop talking. Ouyang Qingxiang glanced at the 2 youths with dissatisfaction. Lu Ming smiled faintly, too lazy to bother with the 2 youths. He looked at Ouyang Qingxiang and said, Saintess Ouyang, think about it carefully. Lu Ming's expression was calm, full of confidence. Ouyang Qingxiang revealed a pondering look. However, the 2 youths couldn't take it anymore. Arrogant and conceited. I want to see what qualifications you have to be so confident. What qualifications do you have to talk about working together with the Saintess? One of the youths roared and stepped out. A powerful aura erupted from his body as he raised his hand. Vigorous divine force condensed into a giant hand and pressed down on Lu Ming. Ouyang Qingxiang's eyes flickered, but she didn't stop him. She also wanted to see how strong Lu Ming was. Yu Linglong and Wu Zifeng wanted to stop him, but it was too late. 7th level True God Realm. This youth's cultivation was at the 7th level True God Realm. Moreover, he was a genius with great battle strength. A giant hand pressed down on Lu Ming. Swoosh. Lu Ming pointed his finger, and a gust of finger force, like a spear gleam, attacked the palm print. Puff. The palm was penetrated by the finger force and collapsed. The youth was shocked. He obviously didn't expect Lu Ming to break his move so easily. Take another move of mine. Divine Horn Dragon Seal. The youth roared and activated a divine skill to the extreme. He blasted it toward Lu Ming with great power. However, the youth's cultivation was at the 7th level True God realm. No matter how strong his battle strength was, it was nothing in Lu Ming's eyes. Now it's my turn. Lu Ming's cold voice resounded. A long spear appeared and swept out. Boom. When the large seal formed by the youth collided with the spear, it emitted a dazzling light. Then, it collapsed. The spear didn't stop and pressed down on the youth. Bam! The youth was sent flying by the spear and coughed out blood. This battle strength. Ouyang Qingxiang's beautiful eyes were filled with shock. Lu Ming's battle strength was completely out of her expectations. A 2nd-level True God realm could defeat a 7th-level True God realm supreme talent. Such battle strength was terrifying. This guy has become even stronger. Even though Yu Linglong and Wu Zifeng knew how terrifying Lu Ming was, they couldn't help but sigh. The other youth behind Ouyang Qingxiang was almost scared to death. He stared at Lu Ming with a pale face. Do you want to try? Lu Ming looked at the youth and said coldly. The youth shuddered and broke out in cold sweat. How would he dare to step forward? His battle strength was almost on par with the previous youth. If he went up, he would be defeated by Lu Ming. Amazing, amazing. Brother Lu's battle strength is unparalleled. I have seen many geniuses, but I have never seen a supreme talent like Brother Lu. Ouyang Qingxiang exclaimed. Now, do I have the qualifications to cooperate with the Saintess? Lu Ming smiled. Of course I have the qualifications. If Brother Lu doesn't have the qualifications, then who does? Ouyang Qingxiang said. Although Lu Ming's current strength was strong, it wasn't in Ouyang Qingxiang's eyes. She valued Lu Ming's potential. With Lu Ming's talent, if he grew up, he would definitely have a place in the Kongxian school. It wasn't impossible for him to break through the heavenly god realm and become the 8th saint of the Kongxian school. Chapter 2788. However, I'm afraid that some of the supreme talents under your command will not be convinced and will object. Lu Ming said with a smile. R-A-N-E? Nakam, how could that be? Ouyang Qingxiang smiled and turned to look at the two youths. Her face darkened as she said, Why aren't the two of you apologizing to Brother Lu? Her voice was cold, and it naturally emanated a dignified aura. The two young men's expressions were ugly. They lowered their heads and walked toward Lu Ming. They bowed and said, We were blind previously. Please be magnanimous and don't stoop to our level. It doesn't matter. Lu Ming waved his hand and said, Saintess Ouyang, let's work together. I believe that you won't regret your decision today. I never regret my actions. Ouyang Qingxiang smiled. They chatted for a while before Ouyang Qingxiang took her leave. Lu Ming, you're getting more and more powerful. We're no match for you now. Yu Linglong pouted. Your cultivations have surprised me as well, Li Qie said with a smile. Lu Ming looked at Yu Linglong and Wu Zifeng curiously. Their auras were extremely strong, and they had clearly reached level 4 True God realm. Back in the Yulong Mystery realm, the two of them had just broken through to level 1 True God realm. How many years had it been since then? The two of them had broken through to level 4 True God realm. This cultivation speed was shocking. Lu Ming had the help of the quantifying character formula and a series of fortuitous encounters to reach his current cultivation level. He did not expect that Yu Linglong and Wu Zifeng's cultivation speed was not any slower than his. Some time ago, Zifeng and I went back to his hometown and underwent devilish cultivation. We thought that we could surpass you. I didn't expect you to be so abnormal. Yu Linglong said helplessly. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. It seemed that Wu Zifeng's background was really not simple. By the way, Lu Ming, the Kongxian School's intersect competition is about to begin. Are you going to participate? Yu Linglong asked. No, I'm not interested. Lu Ming shook his head. That's a pity. If you were to participate, I reckon everyone would be shocked. Yu Linglong's face was filled with pity. Both sides chatted for a while. Yu Linglong and Wu Zifeng left. Lu Ming went back to his room and continued to cultivate. The Sky Xian sect's grand competition could be considered a grand occasion for the Sky Xian sect, as it was a competition between the 7 holy sons and holy daughters. Every faction had many outer and inner disciples. In the inter-sect competition, whichever faction had the upper hand and which faction was stronger would play a crucial role in the future development of that faction. Some new disciples would make a choice according to the strength of their faction. It would even affect the views of some of the higher-ups in the sect. It would also have a great impact on the future competition for the position of the sect master. All the major factions attached great importance to it. Therefore, in the past few years, the prodigies of the various factions who went out rushed back to the Kongxian school to strengthen themselves and wait for the inter-sect competition. The Tenho Seiko faction and Fuko Seiko faction also temporarily put Lu Ming's matter aside and focused on preparing for the Kongxian school's inter-sect competition. Lu Ming did not care about what was happening outside. He was focused on cultivating. Time flew by and 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. The inter-sect competition was about to begin. It was worth mentioning that in these 3 years, Lu Ming's cultivation had improved again and reached the level 3 true god realm. When he was in the ancient gods mountain, Lu Ming had absorbed the energy of countless ancient god flowers and condensed the ancient god's heart. His cultivation had also increased to the peak level 2 true god realm and was just 1 step away from the level 3 true god realm. After 3 years of cultivation, his cultivation had finally improved a step, and his battle prowess had also increased by a notch. Of course, his divine body was constantly improving under the nourishment of the ancient god's heart. Although the speed was not fast, the effect would be shocking in the long run. The key was that he did not need to spend time cultivating and would naturally become stronger. This was the terrifying part of the ancient god's heart. At this time, Yu Linglong and Wu Zifeng came to look for Lu Ming again. Lu Ming, are you really not going to participate in the inter-sect competition? Yu Linglong asked again. No, I'm not interested. Lu Ming shook his head. Then let's go and take a look. The experts from the 7 factions will all be there and many experts on the True God ranking list will participate. It will be very intense. I wasn't even born in the previous inter-sect competition, Yu Linglong said. The Kongxian school's inter-sect competition was not held at a fixed interval. Sometimes it would be 10,000 years, and sometimes it would be hundreds of thousands of years. The last inter-sect competition had been held more than 80,000 years ago. The True God ranking list? Lu Ming's eyes flickered. As the name suggested, the True God ranking was a list of the most powerful people in the True God realm. However, it was completely different from the Empty God ranking list. The Empty God ranking list was a list in the Kongxian school that listed the most powerful Empty God realm experts in the Kongxian school. The True God ranking list was not only limited to the Kongxian school, but also the Qin Tian 13 sects. On the True God ranking list, there were a total of 100 top experts in the True God realm from the Qin Tian 13 sects. Without a doubt, this ranking list had a huge influence in the Qin Tian star zone. Those who could be on the True God ranking list were the top experts in the True God realm. Lu Ming was also curious. How would his current combat strength compare to the top experts in the True God ranking list? All right, let's go and take a look. Lu Ming nodded. Then, he, Wu Zifeng, and Yu Linglong headed in the direction of the inter-sect competition. The inter-sect competition was located in between the outer and inner areas. There was a vast piece of land with a wide view. It was perfect for holding the inter-sect competition. In the middle of the open space, there was a huge fighting ring. At that moment, the fighting ring was surrounded by people. Lu Ming and the rest flew over and blended into the crowd. They did not attract much attention. The Tianhong Saint is here. Suddenly, someone called out. Everyone turned to look in the same direction. Lu Ming also looked over curiously. A group of people flew over. The leader was a young man in luxurious clothes. He had a noble aura and a confident smile on his face. It was as if he was in control of everything. The people around him were all elites. They were all supreme talents from the Tenho Seiko faction. Is this the Tianhong Saint? A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. Lu Zhong was from the Tenho Seiko faction. His feud with the Tenho Seiko faction was getting deeper. He felt that he would have to fight with the Tianhong Saints sooner or later. Fuko Seiko is here too. Suddenly, someone shouted. Sure enough, another group of people flew over from another direction. The leader was a young man in a white shirt and pants. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and he looked handsome. This person had an extraordinary aura. He was Fuko Seiko. The people beside Fuko Seiko were all supreme talents. Lu Ming saw Huang Wen among them. Chapter 2789. The Tenho Seiko faction and Fuko Seiko faction faced each other from a distance. Strong battle intent filled the air. Renina, calm, the grand competition hadn't started yet, but the atmosphere was already tense. Cousin is here. Yu Linglong shouted happily. Saintess Qingxiang is here. Then, someone shouted. Everyone looked into the distance at the same time, especially the male disciples. Their eyes lit up. A group of people flew over from afar. Most of them were female disciples, and only a few of them were male disciples. Many of the female disciples were outstanding beauties. No wonder many of the male disciples' eyes lit up. The person leading the group was Ouyang Qingxiang. Is that Saintess Qingxiang? She's indeed outstanding. She's so beautiful. She's really a peerless beauty. Many of the outer disciples had never seen Ouyang Qingxiang before, and their eyes lit up at this moment. The saint of Tianhong and Fuko Seiko also looked at Ouyang Qingxiang with burning flames in their eyes. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. More figures flew over from afar. The other saints and saintesses also arrived one by one. The saint of Jixia led the people from his faction. The Flaming Sky Saint Sun had led the Flaming Sky Saint Sun's faction here. The Saintess Xuetan also led the people from her faction. 6 of the 7 saints and saintesses from the Kongxian school arrived quickly. Without a doubt, they were all peerless geniuses with unfathomable strength. There's also the Paragon Saint. I wonder if he will come personally this time? It's hard to say. The Paragon Holy Sun is the strongest among all the Holy Sons. The Paragon Holy Sons faction is also the strongest among all the Holy Sons. The Paragon Holy Sun did not appear personally in the previous grand competition. I hope the Paragon Saint will appear personally. He's my idol. Many people were discussing. Among the 7 saints and saintesses from the Kongxian school, the Paragon Saint was undoubtedly the strongest. He was also the one who was most likely to inherit the position of the sect leader in the future. Therefore, the Paragon Saints faction was also the most powerful. In the previous sect grand competition, the Paragon Saint did not appear, but the Paragon Saints faction still came out on top, suppressing the factions of the other saints and saintesses. Look, the Paragon Saints people are here. Someone shouted. A group of people flew over from the north. There were many of them, far more than the other saint sons and saintesses. That is the Paragon Saint? It really is the Paragon Saint. The Paragon Saint has personally appeared. Someone cried out in surprise and excitement. Paragon Saint. Lu Ming's gaze also looked over. A large group of people flew over, but Lu Ming noticed a young man in the middle with a glance. The young man was tall and sturdy. His eyes were like stars, and his face was chiseled like a knife. He was full of dignity and had an aura of supremacy. Needless to say, Lu Ming knew that this person must be the Paragon Saint. When the Paragon Saint arrived, the Tianhong Saint, Fuko Seiko, Ouyang Qingxiang, and the others' faces became serious, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. The people from the Paragon Saints faction stood at the side and waited silently. After a while, figures flew out from the depths of the inner sect area. The sect leader of the Kongxian school, Long Haoshan, had arrived. Some inner sect elders had also arrived. Now that most of the people have arrived, I announce that the sect grand competition has officially begun. Like the previous competitions, the outer sect disciples will compete on the stage. The higher the ranking, the better the rewards. Now, for the outer sect disciples who have signed up, I will draw lots to decide their opponents. An inner sect elder landed on the stage and announced the rules of the competition. Then, he drew lots to start the competition. First, the outer sect disciples would fight, and the fierce battle began. However, Lu Ming was not very interested in the competition between the outer sect disciples. Moreover, there were not many experts who were worthy of his attention. For example, Emo, Feng Yuandao, Feng Luozi, and the others who were in the top 10 of the empty god list had already broken through to the true god realm and entered the inner sect. Currently, there were not many talents in the outer sect. However, many people were still watching the competition seriously, especially those who were from the 7 Holy Sons and Holy Daughters factions. They were looking for the geniuses in the outer sect who had not joined any faction so that they could invite them. The competition between the outer sect disciples lasted for half a month before it ended. Then, it was the competition between the inner sect disciples. The competition between the inner sect disciples was the real highlight and attracted the attention of the audience. Of course, not all inner sect disciples were required to participate. The rules stated that only true gods could participate. Those who had reached the heavenly god realm did not need to participate because there were too few of them and they were too powerful. For the competition between the true gods, all the factions sent their true god realm experts. It was indeed exciting. Lu Ming was also dazzled by the competition. There were different races, different divine skills, and even different secret skills. They were all extraordinarily powerful. However, on the whole, it was still the Supreme Holy Sons faction that dominated the competition. In the end, all the factions sent out their top experts on the True God list. There were only a total of 100 people on the True God list. Divided among the Qin Tian 13 sects, there were less than 10 people in each sect. Moreover, the number of people on the True God list had always been dominated by the 3 overlords. In the Kongxian school, there were a total of 8 people on the True God list. These 8 people were all from the 7 Holy Sons and Holy Daughters factions. The other 6 Holy Sons and Holy Daughters each had 1 person, while the Supreme Holy Sons faction had 2 people. Boom, boom. In the fighting ring, the 2 top experts on the True God list were fighting fiercely, constantly colliding with each other. The experts on the True God list are indeed powerful. Lu Ming watched carefully and sighed in his heart. The fighting strength of the 2 people in the fighting ring was above Lu Zhong's. One should know that Lu Zhong had been at the peak of the True God realm for many years. He had cultivated several divine skills to the peak of the 4th stage and had mastered royal-grade divine power. His fighting strength was strong. However, both of them were stronger than Lu Zhong. The True God list listed the most powerful people in the True God realm, and it was not just for show. One of them was from the Tenho Seiko faction, while the other was from the Holy Sun Jixia's faction. The 2 of them exchanged a few hundred blows, and in the end, the expert from the Tenho Seiko faction won and defeated his opponent. The Tianhong Saint smiled, while the Holy Sun Jixia's face was gloomy. The competition continued, and it had reached the final stage. It was a clash between the experts on the True God list, and every match was very exciting. After a few more days, the competition finally ended. This time, it was still the Supreme Holy Sons faction that won the first place. In particular, there was one person in the Supreme Holy Sons faction who was extremely powerful. He was ranked 6th on the True God list. Most of the top 10 on the True God list were occupied by the 3 overlords. The fact that he was ranked 6th on the True God list showed how powerful he was. This person was the number 1 expert in the True God realm in the Kongxian school. There was no doubt that the Supreme Holy Sons faction would win the first place. Chapter 2790. The competition has ended. N R A N E N A C O M. After this battle, the prestige of the Paragon Saints faction naturally rose to a whole new level. No one could compare to them. The other saints and saintesses looked solemn. If this continued, the Paragon Saint would become the next sect leader. I must obtain that item. That way, I'll be able to contend against the Paragon Saint. The Tianhong Saint clenched his fists. All right, I hereby announce the end of the sect tournament. The Kongxian school's sect leader Long Zhoushan's voice reverberated throughout the area. He paused for a moment before continuing, however. I have another big announcement to make today. There's another big announcement? Many people were taken aback and revealed curious expressions. Most of the inner elders were also curious. Obviously, They did not know what Long Zhoushan was going to announce. Today, I am going to confer a new saint. Long Zhoushan's voice rang out. What? A new holy son? The saint is going to be conferred? This is a big deal. But there hasn't been anyone suitable recently. That's right. The only suitable candidate is the second in command of the Paragon Saints faction. Is he going to be independent? Long Zhoushan's words caused an uproar in the crowd. Everyone was guessing who the new saint would be. It was not easy to be promoted to a saint. First, one's cultivation had to be at the heavenly god realm. Moreover, the divine force that one could control had to be at least of the divine grade. Only by meeting these two conditions would one be qualified. Now, there was only one person who met these two conditions. That person was the second in command of the Paragon Saints faction. This person was also a peerless genius. Back then, he had the chance to be conferred the title of saint. However, he gave up the title and sided with the Paragon Saint. This had caused a huge uproar back then. At the scene, the 7 saints and saintesses narrowed their eyes and frowned. There was going to be an 8th saint. The conferment of a saint was a big deal. It meant that they would be more competitive. Moreover, every new saint would have a huge impact on the current situation. Everyone was guessing who the Holy Son of Dragon Mountain would be. However, they were not confident. Then, everyone looked at Long Zhoushan, waiting for his answer. Long Zhoushan stood high up in the air. His eyes scanned the surroundings and finally landed on Lu Ming. He shouted, "The Holy Prince that I want to confer the title of Holy Prince is him, Lu Ming." Long Zhoushan pointed at Lu Ming. Everyone's eyes turned to Lu Ming. Then, the scene fell into a dead silence. Lu Ming was also dumbfounded. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that the new Holy Son of Dragon Mountain would be him. Originally, he was just like everyone else, curious to know who this newly conferred Holy Son was. He didn't expect it to be him. For a moment, he couldn't wrap his head around it. Lu Ming, this is the mission I'm giving you. You must accept the position of Holy Son. Lu Ming heard the voice of Long Zhoushan. What the hell is this old man doing? Lu Ming finally calmed down, his mind racing. He didn't think that Long Zhoushan had good intentions. This old man had cast the Nether Dragon blood curse in his body. He definitely didn't have good intentions. Lu Ming, you've become a holy son. Awesome, awesome, brother. Yu Linglong and Wu Zifeng were also dumbfounded. They couldn't come to their senses for a long time. It's him. The holy son that the sect master wants to confer is him? Everyone stared at Lu Ming, dumbfounded. The point is, who is he? That's right. I've never seen him before. Many people exclaimed. After all, Lu Ming had only joined the Kongxian school for a few decades. Many people had been in seclusion for hundreds or thousands of years. Most people had never seen Lu Ming before. It's him. I know him. He just joined the school a few decades ago. What? He was conferred the Holy Son when he just joined the school a few decades ago? You must be kidding. Shoo, lower your voice. Be careful not to let the sect master hear you. But this lad, how is he qualified to be a Holy Son? There was an uproar at the scene. Lu Ming, who had just joined the school a few decades ago, was actually conferred the title of Holy Son. What was going on? It's this lad. The Tianhong Holy Son, Fuko Seiko, and the rest looked at Lu Ming like swords. Sect Master, I don't think this is appropriate. At this moment, an elder walked out and cupped his fists at Long Zhoushan. What's wrong? Long Zhoushan said lightly. Lu Ming has just joined the school a few decades ago. His current cultivation level has only broken through to the true God realm not long ago. No matter how you look at it, he's not qualified to be conferred the title of Holy Son. The elder said. This elder was an inner sect elder and Ing Tsang's master. He belonged to the Tenho Seiko faction. Ing Tsang, who was ranked 4th on the empty god list, had been secretly taken in as a disciple by this elder. Later on, he was killed by Lu Ming in the Nether Dragon secret territory. Ing Tsang had always hated Lu Ming. Since Long Zhoushan wanted to confer the title of Holy Son to Lu Ming, he naturally had to step out to oppose it. That's right, Sect Master. This must not be done. Following that, A few other inner sect elders stepped out to oppose it. Obviously, these inner sect elders belonged to the various factions of the Holy Sons and Holy Daughters. "Are you doubting me?" Long Haoshan said lightly, but there was a terrifying majesty in his voice. A few inner sect elders jumped in fright and hurriedly said, "We're not doubting you, sect master. It's just that the conferment of a holy son is a big matter. Sect master, you must consider it carefully." "That's right, sect master. The holy sons and holy daughters are all peerless geniuses. Not everyone is suitable and qualified." The Tianhong holy son stepped out and bowed to Long Haoshan. "Tianhong is right. To be a holy son, one must first fulfill two conditions. First, one must possess holy divine power. Second, one must be a heavenly god. This Lu Ming is only a true god. How can he be qualified to be a holy son?" "Sect master, please retract your decision." Fuko Seiko stepped out and cupped her fists. Long Haoshan furrowed his brows. The Kongxian school's holy sons and holy daughters had a higher status than the inner sect elders. The holy sons and holy daughters were all peerless geniuses. If there were no accidents, they would enter the God-King realm in the future and become the overlord of a region. Their words carried more weight than the inner sect elders. Following that, the holy son of Jixia, the holy son of Yenkong, and the holy daughter of Shuetan all spoke up to persuade Long Haoshan to retract his decision. Among the 7 holy sons and holy daughters, only 2 of them remained silent. One of them was the paragon holy son. He only looked at Lu Ming curiously. Light flashed in his eyes, but he did not say anything. As for Ouyang Qingxiang, she naturally would not say anything. She and Lu Ming were partners. If Lu Ming could become a holy son, it would be of great help to her. She even hoped that Lu Ming would become a holy son. Chapter 2791. Lu Ming watched quietly, not saying a word. He was pondering over Long Zhoushan's motive. Was Long Zhoushan trying to push him to the heart of the struggle, giving him pressure so that he could improve faster and do things for him? Lu Ming felt that this was the most likely reason. "Are you all doubting this seat's foresight?" Long Zhoushan said indifferently, his voice cold. Big Sky's holy son, Fuko Seiko, and the rest did not say anything, but their expressions said it all. They objected. "All right, since that's the case, this seat will give you all a chance." Long Zhoushan's gaze turned sharp as he said, "All of you can send out true God Realm experts to challenge Lu Ming. If any of you can defeat Lu Ming, this seat will retract my order and cancel the conferment. If no true God Realm expert can defeat Lu Ming, then Lu Ming will become the new Holy Prince. Do you all have any objections?" Long Zhoushan's words shocked many people. All of the true God Realm experts from the various factions could challenge Lu Ming. If they won, Lu Ming would not be able to become the Holy Prince. "What is this Lu Ming's cultivation?" someone quickly asked. "I saw it. He's a 3rd stage true God Realm expert." Someone spoke. Those with higher cultivation than Lu Ming could see Lu Ming's cultivation with a single glance. "What? A 3rd stage true God Realm expert? His cultivation is so low. Any true God Realm expert can defeat him." "Yeah, strange. Why did the sect leader raise such a condition? This Lu Ming definitely won't be able to win." Strange. Many people were puzzled. Long Zhoushan seemed to want to confer the title of Holy Prince to Lu Ming, but raising such a condition meant that he didn't want Lu Ming to be the Holy Prince. No one thought that a 3rd stage true God Realm expert could defeat the true God Realm experts from the 7 factions. What a joke. A 3rd stage true God Realm expert was just a low-level true God Realm expert. How could he compete with the mid-level and high-level true gods? Especially the experts from the 7 factions. Those existences could pinch Lu Ming to death with one finger. There was no comparison at all. The Big Sky's holy son, Fuko Seiko, and the others' eyes lit up. Although they knew that Lu Ming's combat power was strong, there was a limit to his combat power. It was impossible for him to be a match for those high-level real gods. In their eyes, Long Zhoushan was giving them a way out. Zhoushan's suggestion. Me too. The Great Skyhong Saint Sun and the Floating Light Saint Sun immediately expressed their stance. Following that, the other saints and saintesses agreed one after another, Long Haoshan's gaze landed on Lu Ming. Lu Ming said loudly. Since it had come to this point, it was obvious that Long Zhoushan wanted him to accept the Holy Sun's position. Lu Ming wasn't someone who was afraid of trouble. Nestle, this guy really dares to accept the challenge. He's not afraid of death. Even if he doesn't die, he'll be tortured. There's a good show to watch. Many people sneered, waiting to watch a good show. Lu Ming, do your best. I hope you can be promoted to the Holy Sun position. Yu Linglong waved her fist and cheered for Lu Ming. Brother Lu, you can do it. Wu Zifeng also patted Lu Ming's shoulder. Previously, they had seen Lu Ming suppress Ouyang Qingxiang's two subordinates. His combat power was extremely strong. If Lu Ming were to strike, he might have a chance of winning. Sect leader, can we fight to the death? The Big Sky's Holy Sun asked, his eyes filled with cold killing intent. Since you want to fight, let's fight to the death. Long Zhoushan said. Regardless of life or death, it meant that they could kill. This kid is finished. Many people showed pity, thinking that Lu Ming was dead meat. I'll fight with this kid. A voice sounded. A young man from Fuko Seiko's faction stepped down and landed on the fighting stage. It's Huangwan. Huangwan is going to fight. Someone shouted. That's right. That person was Huangwan. Huangwan is at the 8th level True God realm. Dealing with a mere 3rd level True God, the moment they take action, it's an 8th level True God. This is making a mountain out of a molehill. He's making a mountain out of a molehill. However, I heard that Huangwan has a grudge against Lu Ming. That's why he's fighting. I see. He's going to seize the opportunity to kill Lu Ming. Many people discussed. Brother, kill him. Kill him for me. Ha ha ha. Huang Wu, who was in the crowd, roared in his heart. He could already see the scene of Huang when killing Lu Ming. Boom. Huang Wen landed on the fighting stage and exuded a powerful aura that pressed down on Lu Ming. Kid, how do you want to die? Say it. Huang Wen's cold voice sounded. He was confident in himself. He was also a genius, and his cultivation had reached level 8 True God. Dealing with a level 3 True God was a piece of cake. Unfortunately, he didn't know that 2 geniuses from Fuko Seiko's faction had already died in Lu Ming's hands. He also didn't know that Lu Zhong had also died in Lu Ming's hands. They only knew that Lu Ming had gone out and returned safely. They didn't know that those geniuses had already been killed by Lu Ming. They only thought that those geniuses couldn't find Lu Ming. If Huang Wen knew that those geniuses had already been killed by Lu Ming, he wouldn't be so confident. You talk too much nonsense. Make your move. I'll give you the last chance. Lu Ming said indifferently, boasting shamelessly. Surging wave fist. Huang Wen shouted coldly and threw a punch at Lu Ming. Rumbling sounds came from the sky when the punch was thrown. It was like 10,000 layers of giant waves that surged toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's face was calm. He condensed a long spear with divine force in his palm. 5 divine flames burned fiercely and boundless divine force gathered in the long spear. He swept the spear out. Rumble. A huge spear intent was fired into the sky, colliding with Huang Wen's 10,000 layered fists, resulting in a shocking explosion. Then, Huang Wen's fist force trembled and was crushed by the spear light. Huang Wen's face changed drastically, and he retreated to the edge of the fighting stage before stopping. Many people were dumbfounded as if they had seen a ghost. This situation was completely different from what they had expected. They expected Huang Wen to crush Lu Ming, but they didn't expect Lu Ming to push Huang Wen back with a single spear. How could a level 3 True God be so strong? Damn it! Huang Wen roared in his heart, and his face turned gloomy. Lu Ming's combat strength had also exceeded his expectations. That's all you've got? If you have any divine skills that you haven't used, use them quickly. This is your last chance. Lu Ming said indifferently with a look of disdain. You're courting death. I'll let you see my true strength. Surging wave sword art. Huang Wen roared and took out a battle sword. He exploded with all his strength and charged toward Lu Ming. With a slash, 10,000 layers of sword waves appeared in the void and surged toward Lu Ming. This was Huang Wen's trump card, and it was extremely powerful. If he used it with his strength, an ordinary level 9 True God would be killed by him. Chapter 2792. Third Strike of Annihilation, Sky Piercer. Lu Ming doubled his combat strength and used the first move of the Third Strike of Annihilation, Sky Piercer. A dazzling spear radiance shot up to the sky. Bang, bang, bang. The 10,000 saber waves that Huang Wen sent out crumbled one after another. Finally, the spear radiance rushed past Huang Wen and clashed with him. In the next moment, all the energy fluctuations disappeared. The long spear in Lu Ming's hand also disappeared. Lu Ming landed on the fighting stage expressionlessly. As for Huang Wen, his eyes were wide open and his face was filled with disbelief. There was a bloody hole in between his eyebrows. The light in his eyes quickly disappeared, and so did his life aura. Plop. Huang Wen fell on the fighting stage, no longer showing any signs of life. Huang Wen was dead. Most of the people at the scene were dumbfounded. Huang Wen was killed by Lu Ming. This was out of everyone's expectations. A third-level true god had killed an eighth-level true god genius. This was too exaggerated. Demon. It turns out that Lu Ming is a demon. He's too abnormal. No wonder the sect master conferred him the title of Holy Sun. His combat strength is so terrifying. Many people mumbled to themselves. They finally knew why Dragon Zhoushan had conferred Lu Ming the title of Holy Sun. Lu Ming was a freak. Without a doubt, the divine power that he controlled was definitely above the sacred grade. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to be so powerful. When he became a heaven god and the son of saint, it would be a sure thing. Damn it! Fuko Seiko's eyes were cold. Huang Wen's death meant that he had lost one of his generals. Big brother, Huang Wu screamed in the crowd. His face was as pale as snow, and his face was filled with fear. When he was in the Kongxian school's outer area, he could get whatever he wanted because of his big brother, Huang Wen. Now that Huang Wen was dead, who could he rely on in the future? He knew that he would have a hard time in the future. Clean up the fighting stage. Dragon Zhoushan ordered. Immediately, someone went down and took away Huang Wen's body. Who else wants to fight? Lu Ming looked at the people of the 7 factions. Emoing, go and kill him. The Tianhong saint instructed a youth behind him. This brat won't live. Lung Ku, a black-robed youth behind the Tianhong divine son, stepped down and landed on the fighting ring. It's him, Demon Shadow. The Tianhong saint sent this person directly. Looks like he's determined to win. Many people were slightly surprised. In the sect competition previously, Emoing had displayed shocking power. Although he was not as good as the top experts on the real god ranking list, he was not too far off. Mo Ying's cultivation was level 9 true god. Brat, your strength is indeed strong. Being able to kill Huang Wen at the 3rd level of true god realm has indeed surprised me. However, your life ends here. Mo Ying said coldly. Huang Wen said the same thing before, and then he died. Lu Ming simply retorted, causing Demon Shadow's complexion to sink. Don't compare me with that trash. Kill. Emoing shouted and charged toward Lu Ming. However, when he was halfway there, he suddenly disappeared. Speed-type divine skill? No, this is a secret skill. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. A long spear appeared in his hand and swept in all directions. The spear radiance crushed through, but did not find any trace of Emoing. Swoosh. Suddenly, a sharp whistling sound came from behind Lu Ming. Emoing had launched an attack on him. Unknowingly, Emoing had already arrived behind Lu Ming. Get lost. Lu Ming shouted and his divine power gushed out like waves. With a wave of his hand, dozens of spear radiances pierced in all directions. Dang! In one of the directions, an explosion rang out and a figure was sent flying. Hee hee, it's useless. Die. Mo Ying's figure flickered continuously. In an instant, hundreds of figures appeared on the fighting ring and circled around Lu Ming. From time to time, a figure rushed toward Lu Ming, but they were all repelled by Lu Ming. You don't seem to be able to defeat me. Lu Ming sneered. Is that so? Suddenly, the hundreds of figures stopped at the same time and gathered into one. My arrangement is complete. Lu Ming, go to hell. Demon God Ghost Curse. Emoing shouted coldly. His body emitted a thick black aura. His hands were constantly forming seals. In the next moment, a burst of energy suddenly erupted from Lu Ming's body. This energy was extremely evil. No one knew when it had rushed into Lu Ming's body. Now that it had erupted, it formed many black and ferocious ghosts. They roared in Lu Ming's body, wanting to devour Lu Ming's flesh and blood. Mo Ing has planted a demon god ghost curse. This kid is dead for sure. The Tianhong saint sneered. Fuko Seiko, the Jixia saint, and the others watched coldly. Lu Ming, Yu Linglong and Wu Zifeng couldn't help but worry. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, go to hell. Mo Ing laughed maniacally. Almost no one in the true god realm could break the demon god ghost curse that he had planted. Even the experts on the true god ranking wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Was it planted when we clashed? Lu Ming muttered. Previously, Lu Ming had continuously clashed with the demon god. Every time they clashed, Lu Ming felt a weak energy rush into his body. Because that energy wasn't strong, Lu Ming didn't pay much attention to it. Now that he thought about it, it must have been some demon god ghost curse. This demon god ghost curse was similar to the nether dragon blood curse in the Dragon Mountain. However, its power was worlds apart. Sovereign. With a thought, Lu Ming unleashed his sovereign divine power and enveloped the demon god ghost curse. Sizzle. After being enveloped by the sovereign divine power, the demon god ghost shadows were like ice in front of fire. They immediately sizzled and quickly dissipated. You? How is this possible? How can you break my demon god ghost curse? Mo Ing suddenly yelled in disbelief. You're embarrassing yourself with such petty tricks, Lu Ming said indifferently. His body flickered as he executed the Nine Heavens rock art and charged at Mo Ing. Even if you break my demon god ghost curse, you can't kill me. Mo Ing roared, his eyes filled with malevolence. He turned into shadows and filled the fighting stage. Is that so? Lu Ming's figure suddenly landed on the fighting ring. A gust of extremely cold divine power spread out from his feet. In an instant, it covered the entire fighting ring and sealed it in ice. In an instant, the fighting stage turned into a world of ice. Mo Ying's body stiffened. His feet were sealed in ice. The hundreds of shadows on the fighting stage also disappeared. This is absolute frost divine power. How did this kid cultivate absolute frost divine power? Has he already cultivated the absolute frost divine art to its peak? But he only joined the sect a few decades ago. Many of the inner elders were shocked. The divine power that Lu Ming used earlier wasn't absolute frost divine power. Could it be that Lu Ming cultivated some kind of secret technique that concealed the divine power's attribute? Even so, how could Lu Ming cultivate absolute frost divine power in just a few decades? Chapter 2793. Could it be? Many people looked at Longhausen and wondered what was the relationship between Lu Ming and Longhausen. Could it be that Longhausen had already taught Lu Ming the frost divine art? Otherwise, they wouldn't believe that Lu Ming could reach the peak of the frost divine art in just a few decades. There were also people in Kongxian school who had reached the peak of the frost divine art and successfully cultivated the frost divine power. However, it required great talent and a long time. What they didn't know was that Longhausen was also shocked. This brat can actually control the frost divine power. Longhausen was shocked. He knew that Lu Ming controlled the divine power of the sovereign realm. Now, he could actually use the frost divine power. Great. The stronger this brat is, the more likely it is to succeed. Longhausen's eyes lit up. On the battle stage, Mo Ing was terrified. He tried his best to break free from the ice that had sealed him. However, Lu Ming wouldn't give him such a chance. Lu Ming moved and appeared in front of the demonic shadow. His cold gaze made the demonic shadow shudder and break out in a cold sweat. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Mo Ing shouted crazily. Did I allow you to admit defeat? Lu Ming said indifferently. He stabbed out with his spear and killed Mo Ing. CSISI. Many people gasped in shock. Mo Ing was dead. Huang Wen couldn't compare to Mo Ing. He was very strong, and it was obvious in the sect competition. However, he was still killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming's strength was shocking. Lu Ming, you are courting death. At this moment, The great Hong Saint was furious. He released a terrifying aura towards Lu Ming. He didn't hide his cold killing intent. Great Hong, what are you trying to do? Ouyang Qingxiang also released her aura and blocked the great Hong Saint's aura. What am I trying to do? Didn't you see that Emoing had already admitted defeat? He already admitted defeat, but this brat still killed him. How audacious. I'll kill him right now. The heavenly Hong Saint said angrily. Haha, what a joke. Before the battle started, they only said that regardless of life and death, they didn't say that they couldn't kill if they admitted defeat. Lu Ming said indifferently, You quibble. The Tianhong Saint was enraged, and a terrifying killing intent erupted from his body. However, Lu Ming was right. Before the battle started, he had indeed only said that regardless of life or death, but he did not say that he could not kill as long as he admitted defeat. Done. At this moment, Long Haoshan waved his sleeves and said, Just now, I didn't say that you can't kill if you admit defeat. Now I'll say it. In the following battles, as long as you admit defeat, you must stop. Upon seeing that Long Haoshan had spoken, the great sky sage Sun was also helpless. He could only glare icily at Lu Ming. The murderous intent in his eyes intensified. Saint, let me kill this brat. Another youth stepped out from behind the Tianhong Saint. Seeing this youth, the great sky sage Sun nodded and said, All right, let's end this quickly. Don't give that brat a chance to admit defeat. Clearly, the great sky sage Sun was very confident in this youth. Don't worry, Saint. He won't have a chance to admit defeat. The youth said coldly. In a flash, he landed on the fighting ring. Shuiyu, it's Shuiyu. When the youth landed on the fighting ring, many people were shocked. This was because Shuiyu was an expert on the True God ranking board. He was one of the 8 experts from the Kongxian school who were ranked on the True God ranking board. He was also the strongest True God realm expert under the Tenho Seiko faction. Lu Ming is going to battle with Shuiyu. I wonder who will win? If Lu Ming can defeat Shuiyu, it will be a miracle for him to be ranked on the True God ranking board as a level 3 True God. That's right. Shuiyu is ranked 87th on the True God ranking board, but his combat strength is not something that Emoing can compare to. Many people were looking forward to this battle. Many of them were already guessing the outcome of this battle. An expert on the True God ranking board? Come on. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with a strong desire to battle. Although he had seen the battle between the experts on the True God ranking board, watching and fighting were two different things. Swoosh. Suddenly, Shuiyu moved. However, he did not charge toward Lu Ming. Instead, he soared into the sky. In midair, Shuiyu's body emitted a crimson light. Shuiyu barrier. Shuiyu roared. With a push of his hands, a layer of crimson light shrouded the entire fighting ring. Shuiyu barrier was a secret skill that Shuiyu had cultivated. It was extremely powerful. As soon as he attacked, he used his unique skill and did not give Lu Ming a chance to fight back. Kill. Shuiyu shouted. In the Shuiyu barrier, boundless crimson sword light suddenly appeared and slashed toward Lu Ming. What can a barrier do to me? Kill. Lu Ming roared and activated the 9-layered crimson gold armor. He performed the 9 heavens rock technique and soared into the sky. Streaks of spear light burst out from his hands. Boom, boom, boom. The spear light and crimson sword light collided with each other constantly, erupting into earth-shattering roars. Why is my divine power being depleted so severely? Suddenly, Lu Ming frowned. He could feel his divine power depleting rapidly. He was using the same move, but his divine power was depleting at a much faster rate than before. Ha ha ha, do you feel that your divine power is being depleted rapidly? Under the suppression of my barrier, your divine power will be depleted in a few moves, and you will be at my mercy. Shuiyu laughed complacently. Then, more crimson sword light appeared and attacked Lu Ming. Is that so? Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. Want to deplete his divine power? You must be kidding. If it were others who were trapped in the Shuiyu barrier, they would be doomed. Their divine power would be depleted quickly. However, Lu Ming had the quantifying character formula. Boom. Divine power constantly emerged from the quantifying character formula. Lu Ming's divine power was always at its peak. Third strike of extinction, moon slashing. Lu Ming used the second move of the third strike of extinction. The long spear slashed down, and a crescent-shaped spear light violently slashed out. Countless crimson sword lights were directly extinguished. The terrifying crescent-shaped spear light slashed toward Xueyu. Xueyu's face changed. His figure flashed and appeared on the other side of the battle stage, avoiding Lu Ming's attack. In the Xueyu barrier, his speed was extremely fast. Such a strong attack. I want to see how many moves you can make. Xueyu snorted coldly. Is that so? Let me break your barrier first. Lu Ming's figure soared into the sky and blasted toward the barrier. Blood God Python kill? Xueyu yelled. Many blood-red pythons appeared in the boundary. There were more than a dozen of them. Each of them was a few hundred meters long, and they charged toward Lu Ming. Moon slashing. Lu Ming continued to use the moon slashing technique and destroyed a blood-colored python with one move. However, there were more than 10 blood-colored pythons. Ha ha ha. Your divine power will be depleted soon. Xueyu laughed. Lu Ming was too lazy to pay attention to Xueyu and continued to attack. Chapter 2794. Lu Ming continued to attack. Moon slash, moon slash, moon slash. Lu Ming continued to use moon slash. One after another, the blood-colored pythons were destroyed. Soon, more than a dozen blood-colored pythons disappeared. At this moment, the complacent look on Xueyu's face had completely disappeared. It was replaced by horror, confusion, and disbelief. How is this possible? How can his divine power not be exhausted? Xueyu muttered to himself. Lu Ming's attack was shockingly powerful. It was definitely a trump card. This kind of move generally consumed a lot of divine power. Even outside, Lu Ming couldn't use it continuously. Not to mention, in his blood rain barrier, he was suppressed by the barrier. The consumption of divine power was several times faster than outside. Logically speaking, Lu Ming's divine power should be exhausted. But why was Lu Ming still so lively? Xueyu was dumbfounded. Boom! Lu Ming broke through the encirclement of the blood-colored pythons and finally bombarded the blood rain barrier. The blood rain barrier shook violently, but it wasn't blasted open. I don't believe it. Come again. Lu Ming continued to attack, and the long spear kept bombarding. Boom, boom. The blood rain barrier kept shaking as if it was going to be broken at any time. But every time, it barely blocked it. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, given your cultivation level, you won't be able to break my enchantment. Just take a beating. I don't believe that your divine power is endless. Even if I have to exhaust it, I will exhaust you to death. Seeing that Lu Ming didn't break the blood rain barrier, Xueyu laughed and finally felt relieved. As long as Lu Ming couldn't break the blood rain barrier, Lu Ming would be exhausted to death sooner or later. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the blood rain barrier, more blood-colored sword lights and blood-colored pythons appeared and rushed toward Lu Ming. Just a little bit more, then. Quadruple combat power. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he began to activate his quadruple combat power. At the same time, he swept his spear to block the attacks of the blood-colored sword lights and the blood-colored pythons. Lu Ming is in a passive position. That's right. However, his strength is truly frightening. Even after being trapped in the blood rain barrier for so long, he still possesses such battle prowess. Truly terrifying. Indeed, Xueyu is not his opponent in a head-on collision. What a monster. Unfortunately, his attack power is not enough to break the Xueyu enchantment. In the end, he will lose to Xueyu. It is indeed a pity. Within the blood rain barrier, as long as the blood rain barrier could not be broken, the blood rain barrier would be able to take the initiative and be in an invincible position. Many people believe that since Lu Ming couldn't break the blood rain enchantment, his defeat was inevitable. Kill, kill, kill. Xueyu's body was constantly bursting with blood-red divine power, raising the power of the blood rain barrier to its peak. Countless blood-red sword lights and blood-colored pythons rushed towards Lu Ming. At this moment, a low roar came from Lu Ming's body. His battle intent suddenly rose by a notch. Battle Character Secret Art, Quadruple Combat Power was successfully triggered. Moon Slaying. Lu Ming let out a long howl and cast the moon slashing technique once again. However, the power this time was much stronger than before. Pong, pong, pong. A crescent-shaped attack burst out. Wherever it passed, all the blood-colored sword lights and blood-colored pythons were destroyed. Break for me. After Lu Ming destroyed the blood-colored sword lights and blood-colored pythons, his spear swept out again. This time, it was directly aimed at the blood rain barrier. Boom! A violent explosion sounded. Then, the blood rain barrier was directly penetrated and split into two halves. How is this possible? Shui Yu roared in shock. It was simply unbelievable. Lu Ming obviously couldn't break the blood rain barrier before. How could he break it in the blink of an eye? Could it be that Lu Ming was still hiding his strength before? Not good. Retreat. Retreat. Shui Yu reacted and frantically retreated. However, how could Lu Ming let him retreat? He displayed the Nine Heavens Garuda technique. In a flash, he quickly chased after Shui Yu. Then, another moon-slaying attack was launched. The blood rain barrier collapsed. Without the barrier, Shui Yu's speed was reduced by many times. He couldn't be compared to Lu Ming at all. Shui Yu couldn't avoid Lu Ming's attack and could only erupt with all his strength to resist. A blood-red armor appeared on his body, covering his whole body. Then, a battle sword appeared in his hands, and he slashed out. Clang! Lu Ming's attack fell on Shui Yu's battle sword. Shui Yu's battle sword vibrated crazily and finally exploded with a bang. This was a mid-grade divine weapon, and it was directly shattered by Lu Ming. Shui Yu's figure retreated rapidly, vomiting blood. He was severely injured. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Just as Lu Ming was about to launch another attack to kill Shui Yu hurriedly shouted. He felt that he definitely couldn't block Lu Ming's next move. Once the next move was launched, he would fall. If he didn't admit defeat now, when would he? Since Shui Yu admitted defeat, Lu Ming could only stop. Shui Yu hurriedly retreated from the battle stage, vomiting blood continuously. A deep wound appeared on his chest. Even his armor was cracked, and the wound was so deep that his bones could be seen. This was all because of Lu Ming's move just now. Shui Yu lost. Heavens, a third-level true god actually defeated an expert on the true god list. This is too heaven-defying. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air, shocked to the extreme. The heavenly Hong Saint Sun, Fuko Seiko, and the others were greatly shocked, and their eyes were filled with fear. Lu Ming was too heaven-defying. In a few more years, how would they be able to compete with the Kongxian school? Even the Supreme Saint Sun, who had always been calm, had a grave expression on his face. Amazing! Lu Ming is too amazing. Yu Linglong and Wu Zifeng muttered to themselves. Boss is so mighty. In the crowd, An Hai, Lu Chong, and the others were also watching. At this moment, their eyes were shining with excitement. They had already submitted to Lu Ming. The stronger Lu Ming was, the happier they would be. As for the outer disciples, they were already dumbfounded. Some of them looked down on Lu Ming when he first entered the sect, but now, they weren't even fit to carry Lu Ming's shoes. Moreover, only a few decades had passed since then. Are there any more battles? Come down quickly. Lu Ming stood on the battle stage and shouted. At this moment, his battle strength was at its peak, and he didn't want to waste time. Everyone looked at each other. The heavenly Hong Saint Sun, Fuko Seiko, and the others' faces were gloomy. Shui Yu was the Tenho Seiko faction's strongest true God realm expert, and he had no one else to send. Fuko Seiko and the others had people under their command, but they weren't confident that they could defeat Lu Ming. Just now, Lu Ming and Shui Yu's battle had been completely one-sided. Therefore, no one made a move. Could it be that Lu Ming was really going to become the 8th holy prince of the Kongxian school today? This thought appeared in many people's minds. Longxian, make your move. At this moment, a dignified voice sounded. It was the Supreme Saint Sun. Chapter 2795. The Supreme Holy Sun's voice made many people's hearts beat wildly. Horan? 1? The Supreme Holy Sun was going to send someone out, and it was Long Xian. Long Xian was the #1 true God Realm expert under the Supreme Holy Sun. He was also the #1 true God Realm expert in Kongxian School and ranked 6th on the True God list. The Supreme Holy Sun was going to send Long Xian out. The eyes of the heavenly Hong Saint, Fuko Seiko, and the rest lit up. Yes, Holy Sun. Behind the Supreme Holy Sun, a skinny young man in a black robe nodded and appeared on the fighting ring in a flash. Long Xian is going to make a move. There will be a good show. Many people were looking forward to it. They wanted to know if Long Xian could stop Lu Ming's winning streak. There was no doubt about Long Xian's strength. He was ranked 6th on the True God list and was definitely above Shuiyu. Shuiyu was only ranked 87th on the True God list. I'll give you some time to rest and recover. Long Xian looked at Lu Ming and said lightly. Even though Lu Ming had displayed shocking strength, he was still very confident in himself. No need. Let's fight now. Lu Ming said. Looks like you're very confident. If that's the case, don't say that I'm taking advantage of you. Be careful. Long Xian reminded. A pitch-black spear appeared in his hand. Long Xian's weapon was also a long spear. Bam! Long Xian stomped heavily on the ground. His body was like a stream of light as he dashed toward Lu Ming. A black spear gleam pierced toward Lu Ming like a shooting star. Third stroke of destruction, sky-piercing. Lu Ming also stabbed out with his spear. Boom! The two spear lights collided in the void and exploded with a deafening roar. Violent airflow spread out in all directions. At the same time, the two figures retreated. This collision was a draw. Sacred divine power. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This Long Xian's divine power was at the Saint grade. This person's cultivation had already reached the peak of the True God realm. He was only a step away from the Heavenly God realm. As long as he stepped into the Heavenly God realm, he would be qualified to become the next saint. There was no doubt about his battle prowess. If Lu Ming had not cultivated the Heaven and Earth 10,000 Dao technique and had 5 divine fires in his body, he would not have been able to fend off Long Xian given the huge difference in their cultivation levels. Otherwise, he would not have been able to fend off Long Xian. Even now, Lu Ming had activated the battle character art to quadruple his battle prowess, but they were still evenly matched. Amazing, truly amazing. A third stage True God actually has such battle prowess. This is the first time I've seen it. Again. Long Xian's eyes were filled with amazement, and he once again charged towards Lu Ming. This time, the power he used was even stronger. His attack divine skill has already reached the peak of the 5th level. Lu Ming's eyes were solemn. Long Xian's attack divine skill had already reached the peak of the 5th level, which was 1 level higher than Lu Ming's divine skill. Fortunately, Lu Ming had the battle character art, and any divine skill he used would be stronger. Otherwise, it would be difficult to fight against him. Third strike of extinction, moon slashing. Lu Ming held the spear with both hands and slashed down. A crescent-shaped spear light slashed towards Long Xian. Boom! The two of them clashed for the second time, but this time, it was still difficult to determine the winner. Amazing again! Long Xian roared and continued to charge towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming also exerted his strength to the maximum. The divine power of 5 divine fires, the battle character art quadrupled his battle prowess, and his exceptionally strong divine body. He used every bit of his strength to fight against Long Xian. The two of them fought fiercely on the battle platform, and they exchanged hundreds of blows. Lu Ming did not use the ice chain because he knew that Long Xian also had a secret skill that he had not used. He had seen it during the Sect Grand competition. Whoosh! Suddenly, a black light shot out from Long Xian's body and charged towards Lu Ming at an alarming speed. It's coming! Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. At this moment, he was highly focused. With a thought, the ice chain flew out and flew towards the black light. Ding! The ice chain collided with the black light, and there was a ding sound. But what made Lu Ming's face change was that the ice chain shattered during the collision. The ice chain could not block the black light at all. After the black light destroyed the ice chain, it continued to stab towards Lu Ming at an alarming speed. Lu Ming could clearly see that it was a scorpion tail. The tail of a scorpion had a black spike at the tip of the tail. It was black and shiny, and it was extremely terrifying. This was Long Xian's secret skill. Bang! The speed of the scorpion tail was too fast. In the next instant, it hit Lu Ming. Lu Ming's 9 layers of crimson gold armor shook violently. It could not block it and was penetrated. Lu Ming used the 9 Heavens Garuda technique and retreated rapidly. But he was still a step too late. He felt a sharp pain in his body. His shoulder was hit, and a small hole appeared. Blood flowed out. Flying all the way to the edge of the battle platform, Lu Ming's figure stopped. What a powerful secret skill! Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Long Xian's scorpion tail secret skill's attack power was really shocking. This was not because Lu Ming's ice chain was inferior to the other party, but because Lu Ming's cultivation was too weak now. The power of the secret skill would also become stronger as the cultivator's cultivation increased. If Lu Ming's cultivation reached the 9th level True God realm, the power of the ice chain would naturally be extremely shocking. Interesting. To be able to receive one of my moves and only be injured without being defeated, there aren't many in the True God realm. Again. Long Xian's voice sounded. Before his voice fell, his figure had already rushed toward Lu Ming. That scorpion tail on his body turned into a black lightning, piercing toward Lu Ming. Ice chain. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Several ice chains flew out at once. This time, Lu Ming used a total of 3 ice chains. 3 ice chains, like 3 silver snakes, flew towards the other. Ding, ding, ding. 3 consecutive collisions sounded. This time, Lu Ming finally blocked the other party's scorpion tail attack. He actually blocked it. That's the secret skill. Ice chain? Someone recognized Lu Ming's secret skill. This kind of secret skill was available in the scripture depository. As long as one had points, anyone could exchange for it. 3rd level True God realm, the power of the ice chain is already so strong. This is already great success. An inner sect elder sighed. How did he cultivate? If one wants to cultivate the ice chain to great success, the cold moonstone is the best choice. Did he obtain several cold moonstones? How is that possible? Another inner sect elder was even more envious. This was because he had also cultivated the ice chain. However, after many years of cultivation, he still hadn't reached great success because he didn't have suitable materials. On the battle stage, the fierce battle between Lu Ming and Long Xian continued. The scorpion tail and the ice chain kept colliding. The long spears in their hands were also constantly clashing. However, they were still evenly matched. I didn't expect you to be so powerful to be able to force me to use my ultimate move. You're the first Kongxian school student. Long Xian's voice sounded. In the next moment, another black light burst out from his body. P.S. Readers, I'm the shepherd boy Ting Zhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 advertisements, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 2796. Another black ray of light shot out from Long Xian's body. R-A-N? Ana, C-O-M? Another scorpion tail. Long Xian's secret technique was somewhat similar to the ice chains. It could not only use one scorpion tail. In the previous sect grand competition, Long Xian had only used one scorpion tail to end the battle. No one knew that Long Xian could use a second scorpion tail. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Fortunately, Lu Ming also held back. He did not use all of the ice chains. Ice chains, go! Lu Ming waved his hand and 3 more ice chains flew out. After a few consecutive collisions, they successfully blocked Long Xian's scorpion tail. You've actually cultivated all 6 ice chains to the greater success stage. This time, even Long Xian himself was shocked. That's enough. Let's continue. Lu Ming waved his hand again. 9 ice chains appeared on his body and flew out, wrapping around Long Xian. 9. Long Xian's pupil shrank and he growled. His body emitted a black light, and another scorpion tail flew out from his body. 3 scorpion tails. Long Xian had actually cultivated 3 scorpion tails. The 3 scorpion tails and the 9 ice chains kept colliding. Clang, clang. Dense collisions sounded. In an instant, the two had exchanged more than 100 blows. So powerful. Both of them are monsters. Long Xian is a monster, But Lu Ming is even more of a monster. Lu Ming and Long Xian had used all of their trump cards, which really shocked the spectators. Even the inner elders could not stay calm. On the fighting ring, the two figures kept flashing and colliding, fighting fiercely. Those with weaker cultivation could no longer see the two figures clearly. Not long after, the two of them exchanged a few hundred blows before separating and standing on opposite sides of the fighting ring. Who won? Everyone was curious and looked at the two carefully. Look, Long Xian's aura is weaker. His body is covered with a layer of frost. Someone exclaimed. Everyone looked over and saw that Long Xian's body was covered with a layer of frost. Even his hair and eyebrows were covered with a layer of frost. I've lost. At this moment, Long Xian spoke and actually took the initiative to admit defeat. He looked at the 9 dancing ice chains behind Lu Ming, revealing a deep sense of dread. Especially one of the ice chains emitted a shocking cold air. After continuous collisions, he felt that the blood in his body was about to freeze. He had to divert a large amount of divine power to resist the cold air. If the battle continued, he would definitely not be Lu Ming's match. What? Long Xian admitted defeat. Lu Ming won. Long Xian's admission of defeat caused an uproar. This result was really out of everyone's expectations. Previously, many people looked down on Lu Ming. They felt that Lu Ming, a third-level true god, would be crushed anytime. But now, even Long Xian, who was ranked 6th on the true god list, was not Lu Ming's opponent. Was Lu Ming still human? If you cultivate the 4th scorpion tail, I will definitely not be your opponent, Lu Ming also said politely. Long Xian's strength was really shocking. Lu Ming had already done his best, but he still did not have a big advantage. He still relied on the terrifying cold air in the 9th ice chain to suppress Long Xian a little. If the other party had a 4th scorpion tail, Lu Ming would probably not be his opponent. This battle made Lu Ming understand that he could not underestimate the heroes of the world. In the primitive universe, there were all kinds of divine skills and all kinds of terrifying secret techniques. It was normal for some extremely powerful freaks to be born. A loss is a loss. Moreover, it's easier said than done to cultivate the 4th scorpion tail. I accept my loss wholeheartedly. Long Xian was an upright person. After cupping his fists, his figure moved and left the battle stage. Is there anyone else who wants to fight? Lu Ming scanned the surroundings again, but no one responded to him. What a joke. Even Long Xian had been defeated. Who else in the true god realm could fight with Lu Ming? They would definitely lose if they went up. Is there anyone else who wants to fight? Long Zhoushan opened his mouth and asked. Still, no one answered. All right, since no one wants to fight, according to the previous agreement, Lu Ming is officially the saint. Long Zhoushan announced. The great sky saint, Fuko Seiko, and the others' faces were extremely gloomy. This was especially so for the great sky Saint Sun and the floating light Saint Sun. They had truly suffered a double loss. They had each lost a genius and suffered heavy losses. This is just the beginning. It's not that easy to secure the position of saint. The great sky Saint snorted in his heart. Congratulations, 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 Saint Lu Ming. Seeing that Long Zhoushan had made the announcement, some of the inner sect elders cupped their fists and congratulated Lu Ming. Of course, there were also some inner sect elders who remained silent, such as Yingtsang's master. Seniors, you're too polite. Lu Ming could only cup his fists in response. In fact, he didn't care about the title of saint. However, Long Zhoushan had forced it on him, and Long Zhoushan had placed the nether dragon blood curse in his body, so he could only obey. All right. This matter ends here. The competition is officially over. Long Zhoushan turned to leave after making the announcement. Before he left, he glanced at Lu Ming. Lu Ming could clearly see that Long Zhoushan's eyes were filled with anticipation and a terrifying malevolence. What is this old man planning? Lu Ming frowned. After Long Zhoushan left, the inner sect elders also left. Lu Ming? No. Saint Lu Ming, congratulations. Congratulations. Yu Linglong immediately went up to congratulate him. Brother Lu, congratulations. Wu Zifeng also cupped his fists to congratulate him. You guys don't have to congratulate me. I don't want to be the saint, Lu Ming said helplessly. When the other disciples heard this, they were envious and wanted to trample on Lu Ming. He didn't want to be the saint, and they didn't even have the chance. It was too infuriating. Hee, it's too early to be happy now. A cold voice sounded as the Tianhong saint walked over with his men. Tianhong, what do you want? Ouyang Qingxiang also came over with her men to confront the Tianhong saint. Don't worry, I won't do anything. The Tianhong saint glanced at Ouyang Qingxiang, then looked at Lu Ming and said, to become a saint, you have to form your own faction and expand the strength of your faction. Only then can you participate in the competition for the position of sect leader. At this point, the Tianhong saint looked around and said, I, Tianhong, hereby declare that whoever joins Lu Ming's faction will be my enemy. It was a threat, a blatant threat. The Tianhong saint was threatening everyone. Whoever joined Lu Ming's faction would be his enemy. The consequences of becoming the Tianhong saint's enemy were obvious. Tianhong, don't you think it's too despicable for you to do this? Ouyang Qingxiang said coldly. P.S. Readers, I'm the shepherd boy Ting Zhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, zero ads, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 2797. What do you mean by despicable? In this world, only the winner takes all. How can I be despicable? The Tianhong saint sneered. N R A N E N A. Calm, that's right. Tianhong's opinion is also my opinion. At this moment, another voice was heard. Fuko Seiko also stepped forward. Her voice reverberated throughout the entire area. I, Fu Guang, also declare that whoever joins Lu Ming's faction will be my enemy. 2 successive saints had spoken, and the entire area quietened down. Originally, some neutral people who had not joined any faction were already tempted to join Lu Ming's faction when they saw how talented Lu Ming was. But now, they were all hesitating. If they joined Lu Ming's faction, they would have to face the revenge of Fuko Seiko and the Tianhong saint. Could they bear this risk? Many people shook their heads secretly and gave up on the idea of joining Lu Ming's faction. Lu Ming's cultivation was still too weak. Although he was invincible in the true god realm, a true god could not be compared to a heaven god. Even if a true god was invincible, he would not be able to defeat a heaven god. Not to mention top geniuses like the Tianhong saint and Fuko Seiko. I, Jixia, also have the same opinion. I, Shuetan, also have the same opinion. Then, the Saint Jixia and the Holy Lady Shuetan stepped forward one after another and expressed the same opinion as the Tianhong saint and Fuko Seiko. Lu Ming's talent was too strong, and they felt great pressure. They could not let Lu Ming grow. The best way was to suppress Lu Ming before he grew. Without the support of others, no matter how strong Lu Ming's cultivation was, it would be difficult for him to become the sect leader of the Kongxian school. After 4 saints and holy ladies expressed their opinions, those who wanted to join Lu Ming's faction extinguished the thought in their hearts. These guys, Lu Ming glanced at the Tianhong saint, Fuko Seiko, and the others with a cold glint in his eyes. Although he did not care about the position of the son of saint, and did not want to be the headmaster of the Kongxian school in the future, he did not want to be the headmaster of Kongxian school. However, it was not Lu Ming's style to not resist being bullied like this. Now, if there is anyone who wants to join my faction, I, Lu Ming, swear that I will treat you with sincerity and entrust you with important tasks. Now, if you want to join my faction, feel free to sign up. Lu Ming's voice resounded throughout the entire area. Many people were tempted. If they joined Lu Ming now, they would definitely be put in an important position by Lu Ming and be entrusted with important tasks. Moreover, if Lu Ming developed, those who join now would definitely become his confidants. However, if he were to join now, he would be going against the great Skyhong sage and the others. That was simply courting death. In the end, many people shook their heads and dismissed the idea. Lu Ming, I'll join your faction. A crisp voice rang out. Yu Linglong walked out and glared fiercely at the great Skyhong sage, Fuko Seiko, and the others. The great Skyhong sage, Fuko Seiko, and the others' faces darkened slightly. However, they knew that Yu Linglong's background was not to be underestimated. Naturally, they would not say anything. I'll join too. Wu Zifeng also ran over to join in the fun. However, other than the two of them, no one else stepped forward. Hee. The great Sky Hong sage was about to sneer and mock, but he was interrupted just as he started laughing. I'll join. A deep voice rang out, and Hai walked out of the crowd and flew towards Lu Ming. The great Sky Hong sage's sneer was stuck in his throat. His face was extremely ugly as he glanced coldly at Hai. Hai's expression changed when the great Sky Hong sage's gaze swept over him. He felt immense pressure, but he still gritted his teeth and came before Lu Ming. Boss, I want to join your faction. Okay. Lu Ming nodded. He approved of Hai's big stature. Who is this lad? He is so daring to join Lu Ming's faction. He must be tired of living. Someone muttered softly. The great Sky Hong sage, Fuko Seiko, Saint Sun Jixia, and Saint Lady Shuetan had just said that joining Lu Ming's faction was going against them. They had just finished speaking when Hai jumped out and joined Lu Ming's faction. This was simply slapping their faces in public. If this was not courting death, then what was? Lu Zhang, Zhao Feng, what are you two standing there for? Hurry up and join boss's faction. Hai glanced at Lu Zhang and Zhao Feng. Lu Zhang and Zhao Feng's faces were as white as snow. Hesitation and struggle appeared in their eyes. In the end, the two gritted their teeth and walked out. We are willing to join Lu Ming's faction. We hope that Saint Sun Lu Ming will agree. Back then, they had all sworn on their life origins to join Lu Ming. Now, they could only bite the bullet. Okay, I agree to let you join. Lu Ming nodded. The great Sky Hong sage, Fuko Seiko, and the others' expressions became even colder. Their eyes were filled with killing intent as they scanned Hai and the others. Hai and the others broke out in cold sweat. Good. The three of you are very good. The great Sky Hong sage glanced at Hai and the others. He then waved his sleeves and strode away. Fuko Seiko, Saint Sun Jixia, Sacred Lady Shuetan, and the others did not say anything. They also turned and left. In the end, apart from Hai, Lu Zhang, and Zhao Feng, no one else joined Lu Ming's faction. However, Lu Ming was not in a hurry. No one wanted to join now, but that did not mean that no one would join in the future. It was not certain who would have the last laugh. Let's go. Lu Ming did not stay. He turned and left, and Hai and the others followed. The Kongxian school competition had ended. Lu Ming's name had spread throughout the Kongxian school and even to the other sections. On the way, Lu Ming gave Hai, Lu Zhang, and Zhao Feng some resources so that they could cultivate properly. Lu Ming would not mistreat anyone who could join him in public under the pressure of the great Sky Hong sage. Lu Ming then returned to his residence and cultivated in peace. Is this little guy going to evolve? 2 days after returning, Qiuqiu changed. It flew out of Lu Ming's wrist and landed in the courtyard, turning into a metal ball. Lu Ming could feel that there was a terrifying aura dormant within, as if it would erupt at any time. Bzzz, arcs of electricity appeared on the surface of Qiuqiu. Ever since Qiuqiu bit off a piece of bronze from the Bronze Gate a few years ago on the ancient god planet, it had been in a deep slumber, seemingly digesting that piece of bronze. Only now did it change. Lu Ming was looking forward to it. The Bronze Gate that appeared on the ancient god planet definitely had a shocking origin. Even many god kings could not break it open. Lu Ming was not sure what kind of change would happen after Qiuqiu bit off the bronze and digested it. Someone's coming. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he walked out of the courtyard. A figure landed in front of Lu Ming. It was an elder with white hair and a white beard. Greetings, elder. Lu Ming cupped his fists. He could tell from the elder's attire that he was an inner elder. Saint Lu Ming, you're too polite. The elder did not dare to slight him and hurriedly returned the greeting. Chapter 2798. In the Kongxian school, the status of the Holy Sun was higher than that of the inner sect elders. Naturally, the elder did not dare to be careless. Renina, elder, why are you looking for me? Lu Ming? Lu Ming asked. Today, I am here to give the Holy Sun token to Holy Sun Lu Ming. The elder smiled, then took out a jade box and handed it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming took the jade box and opened it. Lu Ming found that it was a token. This token was very similar to their disciple token, but the material was completely different. This token was made of an extremely rare material, the heavenly star gold. The heavenly star gold was a precious material that could be used to refine supreme-grade artifacts. What was a supreme-grade artifact? It was a divine artifact used by a supreme being. From this, it could be seen how precious this token was. Holy Sun, you only need to drip a drop of blood on it, and this token will be bound to you, the elder said. Lu Ming understands. Thank you, elder. Lu Ming nodded. The elder nodded secretly. He was quite satisfied with Lu Ming's attitude. The other holy sons and holy daughters were extremely arrogant. When they met the inner sect elders, they also acted high and mighty. Lu Ming's humble attitude left a good impression on him. It's a pity that his cultivation is still a little weak. Competing with the Tianhong Holy Sun, Fuko Seiko, and the others, his future is uncertain. When his cultivation is higher, I can consider joining his faction. The elder thought to himself, Holy Sun Lu Ming, there is one more thing. The Holy Sun can freely choose a holy divine technique to cultivate in the scripture depository. However, the Holy Sun has already mastered the holy divine power, so there is no need for the divine technique. The old man reminded him again before taking his leave. What he did not know was that Lu Ming was overjoyed. It would be strange if Lu Ming wasn't happy that a holy prince could freely choose a saint-grade divine art to cultivate. This meant that he could cultivate another type of saint-grade divine art. For other people who had cultivated sacred divine power, the other sacred divine skills and techniques would not be of much use. However, Lu Ming was different. He had the heaven and earth myriad Tao scripture. The more divine skills and techniques he had, the better. Don't be a fool. Lu Ming smiled. When he returned to the courtyard, he found that little ball was still evolving. Lu Ming immediately left the courtyard and headed for the scripture depository. The scripture pavilion was still guarded by the same few old men. Little guy, you're here again. This time, what kind of divine skill or secret skill do you want to exchange for? One of the old men asked with a smile. In the past, Lu Ming had exchanged for several king-grade divine arts and secret skills. He even spent 50,000 points to exchange for the first level of the ultimate chill divine art. Therefore, the few old men had a deep impression of Lu Ming. Seniors, this time, I'm here to collect a saint-grade divine technique, Lu Ming said with a smile. What? Receive a saint-grade divine art? The few old men widened their eyes in disbelief. Little guy, this is not a joke. It's not that easy to receive a saint-grade divine art. One of the old men said with a smile. In order to receive a complete saint-grade divine art, one either had to be promoted to a holy prince or have extremely high talent, character, loyalty, and so on. Only then could one receive a complete saint-grade divine art. Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the third level of the true God realm. It was impossible for him to be a holy prince. This point was ruled out by them. Could it be that he was recognized by the sect's upper echelons and came here to receive a saint-grade divine art? The few old men thought in their hearts. Yes, I've just been promoted to a holy prince. This is my holy prince token. Lu Ming took out his holy prince token and handed it to the few old men. Oh, I see. What? Holy prince? The few old men did not react at first, but when they came to their senses, they almost jumped up from their seats. Lu Ming was actually a newly promoted holy prince? A third-level true God realm cultivator had actually become a holy prince. This was beyond their expectations. One of the old men took the holy prince token from Lu Ming's hand and checked it. He found that there was no mistake. This little guy is really strange. In the end, the few old men came to a conclusion. Since you're a holy prince, you can naturally receive a complete saint-grade divine art. Which one do you want? I remember that you exchanged for the first level of the ultimate chill divine art. You want the ultimate chill divine art, right? One of the old men took a deep breath to calm himself down and smiled. In his opinion, since Lu Ming had already exchanged for the first level of the ultimate chill divine art, then this time, he would definitely exchange for the complete ultimate chill divine art. Otherwise, wouldn't he have wasted his 50,000 points last time? He speculated that Lu Ming was most likely confident that he would become a holy prince and obtain the complete divine art. That was why he exchanged for the first level in advance and cultivated for a period of time. Senior, I want the ultimate mystery divine art, Lu Ming said. Kongxian School had a few Saint-grade divine arts, and the ultimate mystery divine art was one of them. What? You want the ultimate mystery divine art? The few old men were stunned again. Lu Ming had exchanged for the first level of the ultimate chill divine art. Why did he exchange for the ultimate mystery divine art now? Little guy, I remember that you exchanged for the first level of the ultimate chill divine art. Why did you exchange for the ultimate mystery divine art now? You have to think carefully. One of the old men reminded him kindly. Senior, I've already thought about it. Lu Ming said. All right then, wait for a moment. I'll be back soon. One of the old men finished speaking and stepped into the scripture pavilion. Not long after, the old man took out a scroll and handed it to Lu Ming. Little guy, the complete ultimate mystery divine art is recorded in this scroll. Take it, but I have to remind you that without the approval of the sect, you can't spread it out privately. Do you understand? The old man said, I understand. Thank you, senior. Lu Ming bowed and took the scroll. His heart was burning with passion. He immediately bid farewell to the few old men and returned to his residence. I'm old. I really can't understand young people nowadays. The few old men sighed again and again. They felt that they couldn't see through Lu Ming at all. A young man seemed somewhat unfathomable in their eyes. Lu Ming returned to his residence. Qiuqiu was still evolving. Lu Ming sat on the ground and took out the ultimate mystery divine art to read carefully. Lu Ming didn't need the complete ultimate mystery divine art. He only needed the first level. As long as he cultivated the first level, he would be able to condense an ultimate mystery divine flame. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this month, Lu Ming cultivated the ultimate mystery divine art wholeheartedly. He finally cultivated the first level and successfully cultivated a strand of ultimate mystery divine force. After cultivating a strand of ultimate mystery divine force, Lu Ming switched to the universe myriad Dao technique. As time passed, the strand of ultimate mystery divine force grew stronger and stronger. Another few months passed in a flash. Suddenly, a light spot appeared in Lu Ming's dantian. All of the ultimate mystery divine force gathered towards this light spot. This light spot became more and more dazzling. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.